Hi guys, in this lecture we will continue our question answer session related to irrigation water management. So let's start it. The next question is the force on soil water due to presence of salts in soil is known as metric force or gravitational force or capillary force or osmotic force. The correct answer of this question is osmotic force. So then what is osmotic force? The osmotic force is the force which is exerted by the salts in the soil on soil water. So here these salts hold the water in it and does not let the water to go or to do some work. So it means these salts decrease the potential energy of water to do some work. That is the reason why this osmotic force is always positive. This osmotic force is also known as osmotic pressure. And the sign of this osmotic force or osmotic pressure is always positive. And the counterpart is osmotic potential. Okay, the counterpart is osmotic potential and which is always negative in sign. So osmotic potential indicates the energy of water to do some work in the presence of salts. So it means if salt content is higher in soil, then osmotic potential is lower. It means water has less energy to do some work in presence of salts because salts exert some force on water like soils. Okay, so this concept is similar to soil water potential and soil water tension, in which soil water potential is similar to osmotic potential and soil water tension is similar to osmotic tension. This situation is in the absence of salts. Okay, but this situation is in presence of salts. So here we can remind that in last previous lecture we have discussed that water always moves from higher soil water potential to lower soil water potential. Okay, or lower soil water tension to higher soil water tension. Okay, similarly in this case also water always moves from higher osmotic potential to lower osmotic potential or lower osmotic pressure or osmotic force to higher osmotic force or osmotic pressure. So I think this concept is clear now, and this is the reason why always water uh, water has some hindrance in movement in presence of salts, and this also leads to physiological droughts. This terminology you may have come across. So this is the physiological drought, and physiological drought is due to presence of salts in soil. And due to this presence of salts in soil, suppose plant is there and in soil salts are there. So due to presence of salts, the osmotic potential of water in soil will be decreased or less, and the water that is present in plant cell, the potential will be higher here. So water will move from plant to soil. That is in case of reverse direction. In this case, water will move in the reverse direction from plant to soil. And even sufficient quantity of water is present in soil, the amount of water will not be available to plant. And this type of drought is known as physiological drought. Even if sufficient quantity of water is there in soil, plant is not able to derive this amount of water due to presence of salts in soil. So this kind of drought is known as physiological drought. Okay, then coming to next question, that is the force with which water is held in a non-saline soil is known as soil water tension or soil water potential or soil water stress or PF. So here the correct answer is soil water tension, because the soil is a non-saline soil. So what if the question was that is it is the saline soil? So in case of saline soil, the same question, that is the force of with which water is held in a saline soil, then the answer will be soil water stress. So here what is soil water stress? So soil water stress is soil water tension plus osmotic force or osmotic pressure. Okay, so in case of non-saline soil, this osmotic pressure is 0 because salt is not there. So in this case, soil water tension is equal to soil water stress. So it is known as soil water tension only. But in case of a saline soil, the force is both soil water tension plus osmotic pressure. So combinedly, this is known as soil water stress. So if the question is the force with which water is held in a saline soil, then the answer will be soil water stress. If it is non-saline soil, then the answer will be soil water tension. Okay, I hope it is clear to you. Then coming to the next question, that is the capillary water and hygroscopic water are also known as water of dash and dash respectively. Okay, the options are cohesion and hydration, cohesion and adhesion, adhesion and hydration, adhesion and cohesion. So the correct answer is cohesion and adhesion. So here the capillary water is also known as water of cohesion, whereas the hygroscopic water is also known as water of adhesion. So what is then adhesion and what is cohesion? Adhesion is the attraction between, it is the force that acts between two dissimilar molecules. Okay, two dissimilar molecules. So it is adhesion. And when the two molecules are similar type and the force between the attractive force between these two similar molecules is known as the force of cohesion. Okay, so what happens in soil? Suppose in soil, it is the soil particle. So in soil particle, there is a one thin layer of water will be absorbed on the soil particle. After that, next layer of water will be absorbed. Then next layer of water will be absorbed. So in this way, waters are attracted to each other and the pore space is filled. Suppose this is the soil particle and here another soil particle. So between these soil particles, water will be filled. Okay, so here it is a soil particle and it is a soil particle. So here the first layer of attraction is due to adhesion, because here soil particle and water molecules, these two molecules are different things. So the attraction between two dissimilar molecules is adhesion. So here also it is adhesion. Okay, but after this adhesion, when two water molecules are attracted towards each other and they are bound with each other, so this force is known as cohesive force. Okay, so it is cohesive force. So what is capillary water, then what is hygroscopic water? We know hygroscopic water is held at 31 atmospheric pressure and it is very difficult to separate from the soil molecule because it is a thin layer of water around the soil particle. So the adhesive force is the reason for this your hygroscopic water. So for hygroscopic water, adhesive force is responsible, and for capillary water, so here we can see this water will be known as hygroscopic water, and this hygroscopic water is due to force of adhesion, and this water is known as capillary water, which is in the capillary pore, and this capillary water due to cohesive force. Okay, so I think it is clear now. Then coming to next question, that is the entry of water into soil from air is known as infiltration or percolation or leaching or seepage. So the correct answer is infiltration. So suppose it is the soil and it is the air. So when first water enters into the soil, this process is known as infiltration. Okay, it is infiltration. And when water moves through the soil profile, it is known as percolation. Okay, then what is leaching? Leaching is the percolation of water along with the salts. Okay, nutrient elements are there in soil. When water leaches out these nutrient elements or salts from the plant root zone, the process is known as leaching. And what is seepage? Seepage is the lateral flow of water inside the soil. So it is the seepage. So these are some movement of water in soil. Okay, I think it is clear now. Then coming to next question, that is infiltration rate under flooded irrigation is measured by inflow outflow method or double ring infiltrometer method or tensiometer or piezometer. So here the correct answer is double ring infiltrometer. Okay, so where inflow outflow method is used, this inflow outflow method is also used for estimation or for measurement of infiltration rate, but it is in case of furrow method of irrigation. Okay, so in case of furrow method of irrigation, for measurement of infiltration rate, inflow outflow method is used. But in case of flooded, like flood irrigation type, like check basin or border strip method, your double ring infiltrometer method is used. Then what is this double ring infiltrometer? So basically this double ring infiltrometer consists of two rings. Okay, one is inner ring and another one is outer ring. So the diameter of inner ring is about 30 centimeter, and the diameter of the outer ring is, suppose this is outer ring, and the diameter of the outer ring is 60 centimeter. Okay, so here outer ring acts as a buffer to prevent any water seepage, and the height of the double ring infiltrometer is about 25 centimeter, and it is installed around 10 centimeter inside the soil. So around 15 centimeter above the soil is left. So this is all about double ring infiltrometer. So water is poured inside the inner ring and also inside the outer ring, and during pouring we can add some straw like mulching material to avoid any disturbance of soil. And after pouring this soil, water will start infiltrating into the soil. Okay, water will start infiltrating, and after some times, when after a definite period of time, we can measure what is the decrease in water level inside this ring, so that we can estimate the infiltration rate. Okay, then coming to next question, that is usually dash centimeter water is added in double ring infiltrometer during measurement of infiltration rate. So correct answer is 7 to 12. So why 7 to 12? Here we can see the height of the infiltrometer above the ground is only 15 centimeter. I have already discussed here. Okay, so it is 15 centimeter only. And normally in surface irrigation like check basin and border strip, usually 7 to 12 centimeter of irrigation, 7 to 12 centimeter of water is applied in one irrigation. That is the reason why 7 to 12 centimeter water is usually poured inside this ring, and after that, after a definite period of time, the reading is noted and infiltration rate is calculated. Here I will introduce another term, that is infiltration velocity. Infiltration velocity. So is there any difference between infiltration velocity and infiltration rate? Yes, there is a difference between infiltration velocity and infiltration rate. Now we'll see the difference from this example. Okay, this is a practical example. So this is a reading from the double ring infiltrometer, the infiltrometer that we have already discussed. So at 8 a.m. there was no decrease in water level. Okay, we have poured the water inside the double ring, and at 8 a.m. We noted that at 8 a.m. we just poured and there is no water decrease, fall in water level. Okay, but at 8:30 there is 3 centimeter fall in the water level, and at 9 a.m. there is 5 centimeter fall in the water level. Okay, so here we can calculate the infiltration rate. So how we will calculate? Here total time is 1 hour. Okay, and total water decrease is 5 centimeter. So simply 5 centimeter per hour is the infiltration rate. So what is the formula of infiltration rate? It is the fall in water level divided by time consumed. Okay, so here fall in water level is 5 centimeter and time consumed is 1 hour. So it is the 5 centimeter per hour. We can also convert this unit to different units. Okay, so basically the concept is same. That is 5 centimeter per hour. That is the infiltration rate. Then what is infiltration velocity? Infiltration velocity is the infiltration rate at a particular point of time. So here, if we'll say what is the infiltration velocity at 8:30 a.m. So we have to mention that infiltration velocity at 8:30 a.m. Okay, at a particular point of time. So here, the infiltration velocity will be 3 centimeter divided by half an hour, that is 0.5. So which will give us 6 centimeter per hour. Okay, so here infiltration velocity is the infiltration rate at a particular point of time, whereas infiltration rate is the total infiltration over a period of time. It is the average infiltration over a period of time. Okay, then another term is there, that is steady state infiltration rate. What is steady state infiltration rate? So here we can notice one thing. At 8:30, the infiltration rate was 6 centimeter per hour, but the final infiltration rate at 9 a.m. was 5 centimeter per hour, which indicates that over a period of time, infiltration rate decreases. And finally, a point comes where the infiltration rate becomes constant, after which it will not decrease. And that point is known as steady state infiltration rate. Okay, so basic infiltration rate or steady state infiltration rate is the point beyond which there is no decrease in infiltration rate, means there is a constant infiltration. And if I say different type of soils, sandy soil or light texture soil has more infiltration rate than heavy texture soil or clay texture soil. Okay, and if I see the graph of infiltration rate and time, then this graph is always like this. If you see infiltration rate and time versus graph, then the graph will be like this. Okay, like this. It means the infiltration rate decreases with time, but after a point, the infiltration rate becomes constant. And this point is known as steady state infiltration. This infiltration rate is known as steady state infiltration rate. Okay, and if you see this kind of graph, then which texture? So always infiltration is higher in case of sand, infiltration rate is higher in case of sandy texture soil. So if it is like this, so the above line will be, it is for sandy soil, then it will for silty soil, loamy soil, and the last line will be for clay texture soil. Okay, so this is all about infiltration. Okay, then coming to next question, that is soil, the soil water content retained by an initially saturated soil sample against a centrifugal force of 1,000 times of gravity is denoted by field capacity or moisture equivalent or saturation capacity or hygroscopic coefficient. So the correct answer is moisture equivalent. Then what is moisture equivalent? Moisture equivalent is also a soil moisture constant. Okay, so moisture equivalent is also a soil moisture constant. It is a type of soil moisture constant which is obtained by taking a soil which is initially saturated, and then this saturated soil is centrifuged at a force which is 1,000 times greater than the gravity. So remember this thing, that is the moisture equivalent for loamy or mid texture soil or medium texture soil or loamy soil, the moisture equivalent is same as the field capacity. And for clay texture soil or heavy texture soil, the moisture equivalent is more than field capacity. And for sandy or light texture soil, the moisture equivalent is less than field capacity. Okay, so these questions are also very important. Actually, I am discussing very limited questions, but within questions also I am covering several sub questions. So these questions are also very important. So try to note this down so that this can also be asked in your examination. Okay, so this is all about moisture equivalent, and in case of moisture equivalent you have to remember these three things, that in case of loamy or mid texture soil, moisture equivalent is similar to field capacity. For clay texture soil or heavy texture soil, it is more than field capacity, and for sandy or light texture soil, moisture equivalent is less than the field capacity. Okay, then coming to the next question, that is, under field condition, dash crop is used as indicator plant in the determination of permanent wilting point. So I have already discussed in last class that pressure chamber or pressure plate apparatus or pressure plate membrane, those things are used to determine soil moisture constants, any type of constant, field capacity, permanent wilting point, hygroscopic coefficient. So these things can be measured by pressure plate apparatus in laboratory condition. But under field condition also, we can measure permanent wilting point, and we can measure permanent wilting point with the help of a plant, that is the sunflower plant. Okay, then why sunflower is used as an indicator of permanent wilting point? So first we'll understand what is permanent wilting point, how to know that permanent wilting point has come. Okay, so permanent wilting point, we know that it is the lower limit of moisture availability, soil moisture availability. Okay, then how to know that it is the permanent wilting point? So temporary wilting point is a point in which if plant wilts, it will recover in night. Okay, suppose during daytime when sun is very hot, at this point of time evaporation is very high or evapotranspiration is very high, and plant may undergo stress and the plant may wilt. But under night time, this plant can recover from the wilt. This type of wilting is known as temporary wilting or incipient wilting. Okay, that is temporary wilting or incipient wilting. Then what is permanent wilting? Permanent wilting is a point when plant undergoes wilting, it does not recover even under night condition or even under humid chamber. Okay, if we place the plant in a humid chamber also, that plant will not recover. So we will know that this is the point at which permanent wilting point is achieved. So this can be a question like be asked like that: when a plant is at permanent wilting point and it is kept in a humid chamber, it will recover or it will not recover? The answer is it will not recover. If it recovers, then it is not permanent wilting point. Okay, and the range between this temporary wilting point to permanent wilting point is known as wilting range. This range is known as wilting range. So this is all about permanent wilting point. Then why this sunflower crop is taken as an indicator of permanent wilting point? This is the reason, because we need to achieve this permanent wilting point quickly, because in field condition we are eagerly waiting to measure the permanent wilting point. If we take a crop or a plant which is using water very efficiently or which is using water very slowly, then permanent wilting point will be achieved very lately. Okay, so we should take a crop which should vigorously use the soil water and exploit the soil water as soon as possible, so that permanent wilting point can be easily achieved and we can measure the permanent wilting point. So this is the reason why sunflower is taken, because sunflower has a very bigger leaf. So due to its bigger leaf and denser root system, it can easily extract the soil water, and also the evapotranspiration is very high. That is the reason the permanent wilting point measurement is done with sunflower crop only. Then coming to the next question, that is the time gap between the water reaches a point and recedes from it is known as runoff coefficient time or runoff opportunity time or infiltration opportunity time or percolation opportunity time. So the answer is infiltration opportunity time. The question says that suppose a point is here, this is the point A, and when water reaches this point and recedes means leaves this point. So the time period for which water is held or water remains this remains at this point is known as infiltration opportunity time. Okay, infiltration opportunity time means the period of time for which water remains on the soil surface on a particular place is known as infiltration opportunity time. That means this water has an opportunity to be infiltrated into the soil. Okay, so this is known as infiltration opportunity time. Then surge irrigation is done to reduce infiltration, to increase infiltration, or to reduce percolation, or to increase infiltration. Surge irrigation is an on-off method of irrigation. Okay, the on-off method of irrigation is known as surge irrigation, in which the irrigation system is turned on at a particular time and a cyclic or a time period is given as an interval. Suppose for example 15 minutes. So after 15 minutes the time will be means the irrigation system will be off. So during this on-off system, the main purpose of this on-off system is to spread the water on the soil surface evenly so that the percolation loss will be reduced. So the main purpose of surge irrigation is to reduce the percolation. So here one question can be asked like this. Suppose 2 points are there, A and B. Okay, 2 points are there, A and B, and under surge irrigation, at which point the infiltration opportunity time is more? So if question comes like this, then the answer will be at both points the infiltration opportunity time is equal, because this is the main purpose of surge irrigation. The main purpose of surge irrigation is to reduce percolation loss by providing equal opportunity time throughout the field. Okay, so in case of normal surface irrigation, if A is present at the start, suppose it is the starting of the field and B is the ending of the field. This is the end of the field and this is the start of the field. Okay, so in case of normal surface irrigation, the infiltration opportunity time will be more in case of A, because water will be spread on the surface and throughout the irrigation water will be present here. So means water has this much opportunity time for the infiltration. So definitely the opportunity time will be more in case of A as compared to B in case of normal surface irrigation. But in case of surge irrigation, where we just turn on and turn off the motor switch at a regular interval, so here the percolation loss will be lesser due to the even distribution of water and equal infiltration opportunity time. So I hope these things are clear to you. And remember one thing, I covered only 10 questions, but within 10 questions, there are 50 questions are there also. Okay, so try to identify these small questions from the concepts and make your own note. So thank you for listening. God bless you.